Is there a specific reason my Indian coworkers don't eat meat? Born and raised vegetarian means they are not only unaccustomed to eating meat, but also handling it, smelling it, cooking, preparing it. Even if they aren't terribly religious, there is a cultural aspect to be considered. Some of them will most likely be followers of Hinduism, which encourages vegetarian diets. Ignore the angry comments. How else are you supposed to learn about other cultures than asking questions? People are so einrotent. Have had a few Indian roommates. If they are Hindu and are of the Brahmin caste, priests, intellectuals, teachers, they are traditionally forbidden to eat meat or eggs. They will eat dairy. The other castes are allowed to eat meat, mostly chicken, fish, etc., never beef and rarely pork. If they are of the Jainism religion, they are prohibited from eating any type of animal products including meat, egg, dairy, etc. They are also prohibited from eating anything below the ground, e.g. rice, fruit, greens yes, potato, peanuts. I don't know about mushrooms. There are Muslims in India that will eat beef, but not pork. Many people from that culture are vegetarians. I could be wrong, but from what I remember, it's a respect for all living creatures thing. And also, cows are sacred. It's a cultural and possibly religious thing. I don't know why people would get mad at you for asking if you just didn't know. Is there something you can do for them where you do all the meat parts of your job so they don't have to? That'd be very nice of you. Why people would say you're racist? You're not offensive or insulting anyone, you're just curious. To add to other people's responses, Indian food actually has some of the most tasty vegetarian options due to how prevalent that type of diet is in that culture. So it's like barely an inconvenience. That might be why they can't put it into words. Lot of misguided and wrong answers here. 1. Gujaratis, Tamil Brahmins and several sects don't eat meat for religious and cultural reasons. Almost every Indian doesn't eat meat on specific days or times to honor one god or another. 2. Hinduism specifically doesn't reject meat. However, the equally ancient Buddhism and Jainism abhor the taking of life. Their values have seeped into Hinduism over time. 3. Reincarnation was originally not part of Hinduism, but of Buddhism. Like my point number 2, it has seeped into some sects, variants of Hinduism. 4. Hinduism wasn't one religion for a long time. Indians worship several local deities and our history is filled with internecine conflicts. Several religious leaders, Adi Sankara is famous among those, walked throughout the country, establishing mutts, or religious centers, across the country, weaved the gods into a familial network and created the modern Hinduism. This is why Hinduism comprises of thousands of gods, thousands of modes of worship. Jnana, Bhakti, Karma and Hatha paths are the major ones, and several ways that Hindus live. 5. Gujaratis, in general, don't eat meat or drink alcohol, and it's valid in Hinduism. Most Keralites, Bengalis and Tamils eat meat, and that's valid too in Hinduism. India and Pakistan have the highest percent of vegetarians than any other country. There is nothing racist in asking a question like this. Meat isn't a big part of Indian diet, and the meat that is, often needs to be prepared in a special way for religious reasons. Many in India believe in reincarnation, and cows in particular are seen as being the reincarnation of people. I heard an interview of an Indian immigrant talking about the cultural dynamic of immigrant communities in white countries. And in some cases, it's used as a way to identify the caste someone might have been from. Many people desire to escape the very real cultural effects of the caste system by coming to America. But some people will still try to figure out if someone is a particular caste by looking for cultural signifiers. I believe one caste separation was eating meat. So being particular about only making Indian food without meat is one way to signal to others that they ought to treat you as superior because you would have been from the higher caste. I am a white girl, not an expert on the cultures involved, and probably bungled my explanation. But I was just really fascinated by that episode of the podcast BC. I never would have thought about social hierarchy in communities like that. Vegetarianism is very common across India for religious reasons. Lots of Hindus worship cows and other animals as sacred. A very similar situation happened to me where I worked for a Nepali man who owned a subway. He had a niece that I got to work with who was an English major, so we only had problems speaking if we were trying to explain certain expressions. I'm a southerner. A few times it made me really examine why we even say some things. She told me that most of her people don't eat much meat at all, but that some of the men in her family enjoyed chicken sometimes. She didn't like to handle the meats either, so I would do that for her, which I actually enjoyed because cutting bread open is actually so satisfying. I don't know why people would be upset with you for just being curious. I'm a very curious person and I love hearing about other cultures. My friend would show me pictures of all her beautiful outfits and the different art she would do for different holidays and such. Other parts of the world are so rich in culture that just hearing about it secondhand can be awe-inspiring. When I was leaving that job, she gifted me a treat she really enjoys. If I'm not mistaken, and I may be, it's called chirpy. It's a really hard cheese that you can suck on and chew like a hard candy gum. The idea is wild at first, but it was smoky and delicious. I think it's worth it to encourage people to share about their culture when they're comfortable. I hope you get the chance to talk to them more up. I learned a few words here and there while working and my friend loved it, so maybe you guys could help each other out. Good luck to you op. Some branches of Hinduism and Buddhism promote a vegetarian lifestyle. Of course, they might also just be vegetarians or vegans for personal reasons. Though I'd argue that if that's a big issue for you, you might not necessarily want to work at a fast food joint unless that joint explicitly specializes in Indian cuisine. I have an Indian friend who has explained this to me before. India just has a bunch of recipes that don't require meats, only vegetables. If they are Gujarati, there's a good chance they are Jain. Jain monks take 5 main vows: ahimsa, non-violence; satya, truth; asteya, not stealing; brahmacharya, chastity; and aparigraha, non-possessiveness. These principles have affected Jain culture in many ways, such as leading to a predominantly lacto-vegetarian lifestyle. https://en.wikipedia.org/wiki/Jainism. wprov = SFLA1. Totally valid question to ask and not racist at all. Gujaratis tend to be vegetarian for religious sentiments, superstitions. Indians, who are Hindu, can be at all ends of the spectrum. From being strictly vegetarian, no eggs, no garlic, ginger, honey, dairy, to eating whatever they want. Even among the meat-eaters, beef is still a taboo in most of India. But there are parts of India where Hindus do tend to eat beef. Barely anyone here knows what they're talking about, lol.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epicaricast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.